All right, everyone, let's go ahead and get started. My name is Mason Logereau, and I'll be leading this training today. I want to welcome you to the AP Insight training. Just a little background on me. I've been teaching for the last 12 years in the Austin, Texas area. The last 7 years I've been at Pflugerville High School. It's one of the suburbs of Austin. And this is my 7th year teaching AP classes, but I just finished up my 2nd year of teaching AP World History. I taught AP US for several years before that. And I just started using AP Insight at the end of this past school year, and I gotta say, I was very impressed by it, and I'm very excited for August and getting starting to use it the entire year. All right, a couple of things I want to point out about our training this afternoon. First of all, if you have any questions, please ask them in the chat. And it looks like you've all figured out where that is. You should be fine there. But ask a question in chat. I may not get to your question right away, but I will get to it, I promise. Also, make sure you know how to raise your hand in this training. If you go to the top of your screen, there's a little icon of a man with his hand being raised, and there's a pull-down menu there, and it has several different things you can choose from. But if you could go ahead and click on raise hand, just so I can make sure everybody knows how to do that. If you could do that now. Perfect. Everybody got it. Go ahead and clear those out. And there will be a couple times today where I ask you to raise your hand if you need help or if you have figured out what you're supposed to do. All right. You have all seen this before if you've been teaching AP classes, which it looks like most of you have been. So if you would, take a minute to look over the equity and access policy from the College Board. And just as a quick question, what words really pop out to you when you look at this equity and access policy? Yeah, Kim, I would definitely agree with equitable. That is a very important part of this policy. And also, Lane, I noticed you put reflect the diversity. And that is something that I can tell you from personal experience at my own school. The school I teach at is a very diverse population. And the AP teachers at our school have really tried to make sure that our AP classrooms reflect the diversity of our school. I would definitely agree with that. And Jeff, you're exactly right about wanting to eliminate barriers and giving access to all students to be able to take AP classes while they're in high school. All right, so here's our goals for today. Basically, we're going to be going through the AP Insight program. I'm going to give you an introduction to what it looks like. I'm going to give you some chances to look at the AP Insight website, and then you are going to start making a roadmap using your own syllabus and planning for the fall. Also, if you look at our learning outcomes today and what you're going to be able to do by the time we are done, the first one is an important one, understanding the formative instruction approach. I want to stress that, and I'll bring this up a couple times today, that AP Insight is a formative tool. It is not a summative tool. This is a formative tool to help you and help your students. Also, I want to point out down at the bottom too, engaging with colleagues online. There is a message board set up for AP Insight. And if I can put in my own personal plug, I'm the moderator of that message board. And so I would love to see all of you participating in that throughout the year, sharing ideas with colleagues around the country about what's going well, what's going badly, asking for help, offering advice, any of those types of things. All right, so our agenda. Again, I'm going to go through what the AP Insight program is. We're going to talk about challenge areas and building blocks. And those are terms you're going to hear a lot today, so be ready for that. We're going to tour the AP Insight website together. I'm going to give you some time to start planning for the fall. You obviously won't be able to do all of that today, the planning, but we'll just get started and I'll show you how to do that. And then throughout the day, we'll be doing questions and answers in the chat space. So please ask questions as we go through if there's anything you don't understand. All right, so of course the first question that some of you might be asking is, what exactly is AP Insight? Basically, what has happened here is that the College Board has looked at what are the challenge areas that students face throughout the year. What are those misunderstandings that really need to be cleared up as students go through AP World History? And so in order to take care of those, they've come up with instructional resources that help you, plans that you can use in your class, activities that you can use with students, and also have come up with assessments for students to use throughout the year to help with learning and to help you see what students have learned, what they haven't, and look at their progress throughout the year. They focused on these challenge areas by asking expert teachers what areas that students have struggled with, by looking at data from past AP tests. And what they found is that in general, those challenge areas are areas that students all across the country have struggled with over the past several years. And those of you that have been teaching AP World for a while, you know that those same challenge areas seem to come up every single year. All right. This is a screenshot of what the AP Insight website looks like, and we're going to look at that later on. Here you're looking at a progress report sheet that you will see as a teacher as your students take the assessments in AP Insight. A couple of things I want to focus on this page. First of all, if you notice on the right side under flexible administration, these assessments, and sometimes they are multiple choice quizzes, sometimes they are essays or short answers. First of all, they are very flexible. You're able to take them online for students, or if technology is an issue in your school, you can do paper and pencil. I know from my own personal experience, we have computer labs at the school, but it is difficult to get in there all the time when you want to. So my plan for this year, I will definitely do some of the assessments online, but I also realize that I'm not going to be able to do all of them online, and some of them I'm going to have to use paper and pencil. Also, the other great thing about these assessments is that they definitely will, you can do them in any order you want with your scope and sequence. Most of you, I assume, are going to teach chronologically. I do know that some teachers, though, teach thematically. Either way is fine with AP Insight. You can move these assessments around as you see throughout the school year. There's no kind of deadline or any kind of order that you have to do these assessments. When looking at AP Insight, the AP Insight group identified 3 strategies to be able to impact student achievement. The first one is strategic planning. And again, that's what we're going to be working on today, or at least starting, and that you're going to continue to do until the beginning of your school year. The second part is the challenge areas, and I'm going to go into a lot more detail in those in a second. But just understand again, those areas that students consistently struggle in throughout the year. And then also with AP Insight, a really important part of this is creating a culture of collaboration with AP World History teachers throughout the country. I don't know what it's like in your school, but for me, this year I'm going to be the only AP World History teacher on campus. So for me, it's nice to have other world history teachers that I can collaborate with across the country. And I think a culture of collaboration is very important. And if I can get on my soapbox for 1 second, I've been at schools where there definitely is a culture of collaboration among teachers, and it's wonderful, and it helps everybody, and you can divide up the work, and you can work together to help students. And I've also been at schools where there was no culture of collaboration, and teachers would keep to themselves and not share anything. And I think really, it hurts all the teachers, but I think it really also hurts the students overall. Okay, so I keep mentioning challenge areas. What I want to look at now is exactly what are these challenge areas and how are they going to work in AP Insight. A couple of things about challenge areas you need to know. Number one, challenge areas are foundational areas. Students have got to understand these particular areas if they're going to be successful in AP World History. The other thing that you need to know about challenge areas, like I mentioned earlier, this was a data-driven approach to figure out what these challenge areas are. The College Board looked at results from AP history tests. They surveyed teachers across the country to come up with these challenge areas. Take a minute to read over this slide to see exactly what a challenge area is. The first thing I think is the most important part too, that these challenge areas are all learning objectives from the curriculum framework. So in other words, these are already areas that you are teaching in your class. We're not adding anything to your syllabus, anything new that you have to teach. You're already teaching all these challenge areas. Also the important one too is number 3. These challenge areas are really designed to help students apply historical thinking skills. And we know how important historical thinking skills are in AP World History. All right, you're familiar with these 5 themes of AP World History. Underneath each one is 2 challenge areas for 10 challenge areas total. Again, as you look at these 10 challenge areas that we're going to focus on with AP Insight, notice again, these are already things that you teach in your class. Things like networks of exchange or state building. They are things that you teach in your class and you teach them over and over. By the way, I do want to take a moment to point out the next few slides, I'll give you a little warning, have some graphics with a lot of information on them. So if you need to see a bigger version of it, near the top, right under the raise your hand icon, is the button with the 4 arrows going to the corner. You can hit that and this the slide will then be full screen to help you, especially if your eyes are going bad like mine after years of reading student essays. So feel free to enlarge these as you need. If you need to ask a question or put something in chat, you can minimize it, ask your question in chat, and then maximize it again. All right, inside each of the challenge areas are building blocks. And the building blocks are basically just more manageable components of the challenge areas. So the idea with building blocks is that they're going to build the student's ability to apply the skill inside a specific time period that you were teaching. You know that the AP World History is divided into 6 time periods. And so these building blocks help you to break up the challenge areas into those time periods. All right, if we're looking at this graphic here, this is showing the AP World History curriculum design and how these challenge areas are going to fit into your course. You know that AP World History has themes, it has historical thinking skills, and we know how important that is for this class, and also has the key and supporting concepts. All right, the next few slides we're going to look at show how you can fit these challenge areas into your course. Now again, the way I show this, I'm going to be talking as if you are teaching your class chronologically, but if you are teaching thematically, then you can very easily change this around. I guess I should ask, is there anyone who does teach their course thematically? If there is, would you raise your hand? No one? Okay. Oh, sorry, Matt. Sorry, they're just there. Okay, so Matt does teach thematically. I guess the rest of us are more chronological. But again, it's very easy to change this around no matter how you're teaching. All right, so we have our time periods, of course, that we focus on throughout the year, but we also know that we have our learning objectives. And again, those are things that you come back to all through the year. Things like state building or economic systems. Obviously, you don't touch on those once and then forget about them. You come back to them again and again and again throughout every period throughout the year. Same with your historical thinking skills. It's not as if comparison and contextualization, you teach that in period 2 and then you forget about it. That's not the way this works, and you all know that. These are things that you're going to come back to again and again and again. Okay, I told you there'd be some graphics with a lot of detail, and this is one of them. So feel free, you might need to maximize this slide here to be able to get a closer look. But this is a way to fit in these challenge areas and these building blocks throughout the school year and each period, and also combining the themes and skills. What I love about these challenge areas is it really brings together the themes and skills throughout the year, so that you're going to continue to hit on them over and over and over throughout the year. Here's another example of that. It's basically kind of the same information, but looking at a different light. And I like this because it really does enable you to scaffold your students' ability to apply these skills throughout the course. Again, take a look at it this way. It's just a different way to look at it by theme and historical thinking skill, and then the periods listed there. And notice again, nearly every theme is hit on in every single time period. Okay, we are about to start looking at the AP Insight website. So let me go and stop there for a second and ask if there are any questions. Okay, so Jeff's asking about your textbook and how to use these challenge areas in relation to the textbook. I'm not going to talk about any specific textbooks today, no, because we all use different ones and we use them to a varying degree. However, that would be a perfect question to put in the message board once you get into the AP Insight website and see if there are other teachers using the same textbook you are. And if so, discussing and collaborating that way, I think would be absolutely perfect. Any other questions? All right, so let's go ahead and move on. We're going to start looking at the AP Insight website, which is going to look something like this when you do log in. So if you would, the address for AP Insight is right up here, apinsight.collegeboard.org. If you would, go ahead and open that up in another tab or window of your browser. And then log in with your AP account. Now, I was told that some of you may not have access to Insight already, so please let me know if there's an issue. I'm going to give you a couple minutes to do that. And I know the screen does say select raise your hand if you're having trouble logging in. I'm going to go and ask, since there's only a few of you, if you would raise your hand once you are logged in. That would actually be more helpful, I think. Okay, Kim, if you notice in the chat, I just showed you another username you can log in with and password. Anybody else, if you also don't have access to AP Insight yet, you can log in with that. And again, once you've logged into AP Insight successfully, if you would please raise your hand. All right, so I see that Matt's in okay, Kim's in okay. Jeffrey, are you in okay? Okay, and Jeff is in also. Perfect. Glad everybody got in okay. All right. What I'm going to be asking you to do is just basically going back and forth between the website and my slides here. So just be clicking back and forth. But if you would try and keep up with me, so that you can make sure you are exactly where you need to be. If there's any trouble, raise your hand and I will stop as we're going through this. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is when you log in, the top it says strategic planning. If you'd please click on there. This is where you're going to begin your planning for the fall and creating a roadmap. We're going to be spending some time doing this at the end of the training today, so I don't want to go into too much detail right now, but this is going to really help you as you start planning to figure out when are you going to start teaching these challenge areas. Because again, each of us teaches this class a little differently. You might hit it at different times of the year, so you need to start creating a roadmap for yourself, and we're going to do that in a little while. All right, under strategic planning, if you scroll down towards the bottom, it says select a challenge area. If you would, just click on that and select any of the challenge areas that you might be interested in. And once you do, you're going to see towards the top, prepare, teach, assess, and act. So what you're going to notice for each challenge area is that there are resources to help you as you decide when you're going to do these challenge areas. These resources are going to help you prepare for it, teach it, assess it, and then act on those assessments. So let's look at prepare first. And underneath prepare, you'll see a guide to the challenge area. You can click on that and take a look. There's a lot of information as you look through there. You see some targeted background information about the topic. You also see areas where students generally struggle with that topic. You also are going to see some advice on how to break down that challenge area into the building blocks or into manageable chunks that you can then teach the students. Again, if you're having trouble finding that, please raise your hand and let me know, or if you have a question about it. All right, now take a look at the Teach tab. And then click on Student Progress Sheet. And if you notice, there's actually two copies of the Student Progress Sheet. There's a teacher version and a student version, but click on either one. And I really, really like these progress sheets because what they do is they really help students take ownership of their learning. When you hand a student one of these progress sheets or allow them to look at it online, they can instantly see what they need to learn for this challenge area. And they can sort of evaluate themselves as they go through and looking down the list. Do I know this? Do I need to work on this? And they can really take ownership of their learning. And we all know as teachers, if you can get students to take ownership of what they need to learn, that can be very, very powerful in the classroom. If you go back to the Teach tab, some of the challenge areas will have performance tasks underneath it, some don't. If yours does not have a performance task underneath there, then take a look back at the slides that I have. But these performance tasks are going to be activities that you can use in your classroom to help students with the challenge areas. They're very flexible. You can change them up as you need to fit your classroom style and your teaching style. They're activities that can be done individually for students. They can work with a partner to do them or in small groups. It is completely up to you. But it really does help students focus in on the challenge area and what they need to work on. All right, let's take a look at assess. So back up at the top, you have prepare, teach, and then assess. In the assess part, you're going to find the success criteria for these building blocks and challenge areas. So basically, when we're talking about success criteria, we're talking about what does mastery of that content or skill look like. So if you're looking at success criteria, again, when you click on that, it's broken down by building block and explains exactly what a student needs to know in order to be successful in this challenge area. There's also there assessments. When you're ready and once you've taught this challenge area, you're going to give students the opportunity to determine if they're ready for the assessment. If you take a look at my slides, come back to that if you're not. There's really two types of assessments that you're going to see in AP Insight. And again, these are the ones that we were talking about earlier, that they can be done online. They can also be done with pencil and paper. They can be done at any time during the school year, depending on how you teach the course. The two different types of assessments you'll see. The first one is building block quizzes. And these are usually about 3 to 5 questions, mainly multiple choice, but some short answer. And the multiple choice questions are really designed to look like the AP test questions. Usually there's some sort of stimulus, some kind of reading, followed by the multiple choice questions. There's also the challenge area assessments. These are a little bit longer. They're not multiple choice. They're usually short answer. Sometimes they're long essays. And this is after you've done all the building blocks, you've taught all the building blocks for a challenge area, and you're done with that challenge area, you give one of these assessments. There are rubrics to go with it that look very similar to the exam rubrics. There's going to be more trainings later in the year on how to use these rubrics to grade the students. So I don't want to get too much into that right now. But the nice thing about these assessments is that it gives immediate feedback to each student individually to show them what they need to improve on, but you as the teacher can also see how your students did as a class. And so for the last part of this, if you would go to the ACT part. And this is where you can look at results from the assessments by individual student or as a group. Now, obviously right now you don't have any assessment results, but if you look back to my screen and my slides, you can see what a report might look like. So notice for this student, you had 3 multiple choice questions. What I really like about these assessments is not only does it tell students what they got right or what they got wrong, but it explains to them when they get something incorrect, it explains to them why they probably messed up and also how they can improve in that challenge area. And actually on the flip side also, it will explain to a student if they got the question right, we'll explain to them why and how they got it right, which, you know, if we're being honest, sometimes students don't really think about. Once they get a question right, they say, great, I'm good to go, without really understanding why they necessarily got it right. You're also going to see under the ACT tab your next steps guide. What is the next step for each individual student or for your class? It's sort of the what now of all of this. And again, there are activities that are sort of follow-up activities depending on how well a student did on the assessment. And these activities, again, can be done individually. They can be done in pairs or in groups. It's completely up to you. The other nice thing that these do is it really forces students to reflect upon their learning. And this is something that, in my own class, when I first started doing this, I will be honest, it was a struggle for the students. First of all, they weren't very excited about it, and secondly, they had trouble doing it. But what I started doing is modeling what this reflection looks like. And once I did that, and once students started to see the importance of it and how powerful it can be, made life a lot easier for them and especially for me. And it really did help learning, I think, when students start to reflect on why did I do so well in this assessment? Or why did I do so poorly? What do I need to improve on? Or what did I do well? All right, so that's what the challenge area is. If you go back to the very top of the site, please click on Share What Works. And this is the message board that I was talking about earlier. And again, if I can put in my plug as a moderator, I would love to see all of you on there. So please, please, please feel free to post there as much as you want. Please share what's working in your class, or if you want to, please share what's not working, and we can help each other out. But again, I really would love to see a culture of collaboration across the country of teachers in AP World History. So if you look at those discussion boards, there's a lot of different boards you can post on, but please, please, please do that throughout the year. Take a look at the Professional Learning tab also at the top. This is where you're going to see our professional learning communities throughout the year, our PLCs. More information will be coming on that throughout the year, so please keep an eye on your email, keep an eye on that professional learning tab. But as we go through these trainings and we introduce teachers to AP Insight, the leaders at AP Insight are trying to figure out what areas do teachers really need more help with on. Is it on building the roadmap? Is it on grading these assessments with the rubric, that sort of thing? So we will be announcing those different PLCs throughout the year. And usually it's going to be a online training, something similar to this, usually about an hour, hour and a half, that you could watch either live or at your earliest convenience. Okay, we're going to start creating roadmaps in a second, but let me go ahead and stop here and see if there's any questions. I know I've thrown a lot of information at you already in a very quick time. Oh, well, thank you, Elaine. I appreciate that. Okay, also, if you haven't already, you're going to need those materials down below where it says reading materials underneath my slides. So go ahead and download those if you haven't already. And again, make sure you have your syllabus with you. If you don't have your syllabus, there is a sample one there that you could use. But again, obviously, it's going to be a lot more helpful if you have your own syllabus with you. Go ahead and raise your hand when you are ready to go on to do the roadmap. Make sure you have all your documents downloaded and your sample syllabus. Then go ahead and raise your hand, please. All right, looks like Kim, Jeff, Elaine, you're good to go. Matt, is there anything we can help you with? Or are you still downloading? As Matt's doing that too, I'll tell you with this roadmap, we're going to start it today, but obviously this is not something you'll be able to finish up by 1:15. So it's going to be, or whatever time it is in your time zone. This is not something we're going to finish up right here today, but there are some online modules I'm going to show you later on too that will help you finish it up. And you can always email me if you have any questions at any point while you're doing this roadmap. Anytime during the summer you want to email me, that'd be absolutely okay. Or again, you can always post it in the message board. All right, let's go and move on. Hopefully Matt comes back to us in a second. All right. So again, I've thrown a lot out at you, I do realize, and so I know that when I first went through this training, after I got it all through my head, and that took a while to do, my next question was, okay, great, but how do I get started? So this area roadmap that we're going to do today is how you get started. And basically what I want to look at is using your syllabus, when are you going to teach these different challenge areas throughout the year? And when are you going to teach the different building blocks? Because again, these are already things that you teach in your class. This is nothing new. But you want to kind of think about when are you going to be teaching them throughout the year. So the way we're going to go about it today is I want you to take your syllabus and I want you to pick any time period you want to focus on. So again, pick one time period for today. You may or may not get done with that one time period, but you can finish up another time and then do the other time periods later. You've also downloaded the topic translation. That's going to kind of help you figure out, okay, I have this time period, what challenge areas and building blocks will go along with it? And then from there, you can start to use that blank roadmap to fit in the building blocks into your syllabus. And then once you've taught all the building blocks for a particular challenge area, and that could be different times of the year depending on the challenge area, then you will know when you've taught that full challenge area and you can do the challenge area assessment. So let's take a look at the topic translation first. And again, you've already downloaded that. So you can kind of look at that as I'm talking. But in the topic translation, you're going to see that the challenge areas and the building blocks are all aligned to the time periods that you already teach, or to the topics. And you can see an example here from the sample syllabus. If we're talking about cross-cultural exchanges and networks of trade and communication, well, then you know that's one of the challenge areas and the building blocks that you can use. And when we're doing this, you want to sort of highlight next to your syllabus. If you have a paper copy of your syllabus, it might be best. Or if you have an electronic version, you can type it on there. But kind of figure out what are those building blocks that are going to fit into your syllabus there. So if you would, go ahead and take a couple minutes. Pick one topic from your syllabus. And then find a building block that goes along with that topic or time period and write it on your syllabus. And I'll give you a couple minutes to do that. And once you've done it, go ahead and raise your hand. If you're completely lost or you don't understand what I'm talking about, also feel free to ask questions in chat as you're doing this. Also, while you're doing this, on a more personal note, I got to give very good props to my dog today. I thought for sure he would be barking his head off while we did this today, but he's been very quiet. Very proud of him. I thought for sure I'd have to stop this training at some point to get him to stop barking, but it's been pretty good so far, so good for him. All right, so I see that Kim has been able to take a building block or challenge area and put it into her syllabus. Jeff and Matt, I'll give you another minute to do that. If you need any help, please ask. All right, so it looks like everybody's good. We can go ahead and move on. Let me clear out your raised hands. All right, pull up the challenge area roadmap if you would. It's one of the documents you downloaded. Notice on there, you've got the challenge areas up at the top row. And then underneath it, you have the 6 periods, 6 time periods that we focus on. What you're going to do now, and I'm going to give you about 5 minutes or so to start doing this. You probably won't finish it, but you can at least get started. Is under each challenge area, start thinking about the building blocks that go inside that challenge area and where they're going to fit in your time periods. So is it going to be under period 1, period 2, period 3, and so on? And again, this is going to give you an idea of, okay, when can I teach these building blocks? And then also the other thing you want to focus on is when is the last building block for that challenge area getting taught? And when can I do that challenge area assessment? Because you can, of course, only do that once you've gone through all the building blocks. Okay, so if you would, go ahead and start working on that. Think about some of the building blocks from a challenge area that you've picked and start putting those into the roadmap under the period that it belongs. And I'm going to give you about 5 minutes to do that. As you're working, again, if you have any questions, please ask. You probably won't finish it today, and that's fine, but at least you can get started and you can know what work you still have left to do. So take about 5 minutes to work on that. Hopefully everyone's doing well with your roadmap. I'll still give you about 5 more minutes or so to work on that. Again, please ask any questions you have in chat or if you're confused about anything. All right, everybody, if I could have you come back to the slides now. And if you want, go ahead and save your work. Because again, I'm assuming you probably did not finish it, but something you'll be able to complete on your own time. So if you're on your own personal computer, you can just save it. If you're on a computer, we can't save a document. You might want to email it to yourself, or if you're at school, put it on the school server. Okay, so if we're back to the slides, looking at your homework and completing your challenge area roadmap. And again, this is something you've already started, but I'd like for you to finish it up. Using your syllabus, using the topic translation, putting in the building blocks into the periods that you teach, and then again, figuring out when is the last building block of that challenge area. And then you'll know when you can do the challenge area assessment. Okay, if you would, go back to the AP Insight site real quick and click on Strategic Planning up near the top. And there you're going to see some resources that will help you out as you're finishing up the roadmap, including one of the more important ones. If you go down, you'll see Create a Challenge Area Roadmap. The first link under there says Create Your Roadmap. Everybody sees that? If you would, raise your hand if you see that, just to make sure we're on the same page, because this is an important one. Matt, are you okay? Or seems like you might be having some trouble. I know you had to log out and log back in. Okay, good. All right. Under there is a module that you can complete on your own time that's going to help you finish up that roadmap. Make sure you go through the whole module. Because at the very end of it is a survey for you to take for you to get credit and attendance for finishing the module. So make sure you go through the whole thing. It'll probably take you about 30 or 45 minutes to do that. Okay, so the question is, we're looking back at the slides here, what's next? You have the challenge area module, there's also the roadmap module. So make sure you finish both of those. And again, do those whenever you would like, but plan on about 30 or 45 minutes for each one. Okay, also, if you have any questions while you're doing that, up on the screen is the email address for AP Insight. It's very simple, apinsight@collegeboard.org. There's also a phone number you can call if you need any help and want to speak to someone. Also, again, remember though, we also have the message board that you can use to post any questions, to post something that works well for you, or anything like that. All right, so looking over our objectives for today, and we're not quite done yet because I'm going to give you a little time to look around the site, but we're getting near the end. Take a look at our learning objectives. I think that we hit all of them. If I did not, please let me know in the remaining few minutes that we have, and we can hit on them. Also, if you would, either in the next 20 minutes or later on today, take a quick survey on how this training went. I would appreciate it. I would appreciate your feedback. Also remember too, all these slides are available under reading materials where it says welcome to AP Insight World History Presentation. All the slides are there. So if you can't find that email address later or the phone number or the link to SurveyMonkey, you can find all of those there. All right. I am finished with the presentation part of this, so I want to just thank all of you for spending time today going through this. I know that it's summertime. I know that it's kind of the middle of lunch/nap time, at least it is at my house during the summer. But I want to thank you all for taking the time to do this. Like I said, I just started using AP Insight towards the end of this past year, but I'm very excited to see what it's going to look like using it for an entire school year next year. I showed bits and pieces to my students, this last year, and I think, frankly, they got mad at me that we didn't use it the entire year. And I tried to explain to them, well, it's a new program, and sorry, y'all lost out, but next year's crop of sophomores are going to get to use this whole thing. In the last 20 minutes that we have, though, what I would like for you to do, you have a couple options. Either continue looking around the Insight website some more, looking at all the different resources that are there for the challenge areas. If you want to start working on those modules and continuing on through roadmap, you can do that. But we have about 20 minutes left. I will be around. I will have the headset on, so if you have any questions, then I will be here to answer any of them. And thank you all very much for the nice compliments. I appreciate it. I'm also going to kind of type in my email address into the chat. So if you do have any questions after we leave today, please feel free to email me. Yeah, Jeff, that's a good question you've raised the textbook. Just curious, what textbook are you using in your class? So it's good to see. Okay, so we have Kim and Jeff using Bentley, Matt using a different one. Yeah, I'm a Ways of the World guy myself. Um, what I would say too is, look back to the roadmap and also to the topic translation and look at the topics that you're covering, if you go by chapter or whatever, however it is you use the textbook. And you can use that topic translation to figure out what challenge areas best line up with those chapters as you teach them. I think that'd probably be the easiest thing to do. And then again, using that roadmap to continue that work. But like I said earlier too, I think a good idea too might be posting in the message board, seeing if other teachers around the country are using your textbook and see what they did. Because, as I mentioned earlier, I'm a big believer in collaboration. I'm a big believer in not reinventing the wheel. And if a teacher is using your textbook and has done something well, then by all means, please use their idea and please share them. I hate having to see teachers struggle with trying to plan all this when someone else has already done it and done it well, and you can use their ideas well in your classroom. Yeah, and Jeff, that's a good point too. There's a good Facebook group out there. I know that the College Board site itself has some other message boards, not dealing with AP Insight, but just dealing with teaching AP World. That would be good also.